Welcome, everybody. We got another episode of Lifestyle Medicine. Today we've got Michael Bouvier. So, Michael, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Michael is, boy, you got a lot of things to your title. And I'll let you flesh these out fully, but I know you're a massage therapist, Chinese tonic herbalist. You're an author. So, just to give the listeners a little bit of a larger framework of what you do, why don't you tell us what you do first, and then we can get into the good dialogue and the questions that I got for you.
Nice. Thanks for having me, by the way. It's I'm really excited about this.
You bet, man.
Yeah, I think what I found in people ask me that question all the time, what do you do? And I think the more appropriate question is like, what don't I do? Right? Enough, yeah. Because in life in general, I kind of created myself to be whatever I'm needed to be, right?
Yeah.
And so if I need to fix a car and I don't know how to do it, I teach myself how to do it and I do it, or whatever the case is. But relevant to today's day and time and what I do most, I've been a massage therapist, licensed massage therapist for 15 years. I've been doing it my whole life, but definitely was a calling that I didn't even know I had, to be honest, and so I've been doing that forever. And developed a bunch of my own techniques and whatnot. Worked with a lot of different doctors. I wrote several books. I'm in the process of working on one that's actually a children's book, right?
Very cool.
Yeah, so I could definitely dive into that. But I'm a Chinese tonic herbalist through Master Herbalist Ron Teagarden. I've had an awesome privilege of training with him and then diving.
Shout out to Dragon Herbs, right?
Yeah.
Dragon Herbs. If you guys are not familiar with Ron Teagarden, he is the man in the Chinese tonic herbalism scene. That guy his herbs are top notch.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things I love about with regard to Ron. One of the things I love about him is that he's such a stickler on sourcing. Right. And I've literally witnessed him. If he doesn't have a quality ingredient that he's desiring, he will literally take whatever product has it or that particular item and just take it off the shelf. And you ask, well, when is that coming back? And they're like, maybe in a month we should have it. Could be 6 months. It's like because he won't take anything that's less. Right. And what I love about that is it fits really in with what I do at foodhealing.org. So I own foodhealing.org as well. I founded that. And I'm the same way. I want the best of the best. That's it.
You want
I
the
don't
top
want
notch,
anything.
Right?
Yeah, it's got to be the best. And for a couple of reasons, I'd happily tell you about how food healing was born because it's really a story of love, which is awesome. But as a result of food healing, it was like I was sourcing out and buying bulk ingredients and stuff for myself, right, for my family. And then what I started to learn over the years is that it's not enough to just have a supplement, right, a B12 or a B complex or whatever, right. It's about how is it made.
Excuse me. Mm-hmm.
Right? But even more important, where was the sourcing? There's a lot of good companies out there that I see even to this day that have a good product, right? When you look at it, when you look at the sheet work, it's like, oh, yeah, it looks good. Yeah. And most people stop there. Some people don't even go there. Some people are like, oh, so-and-so said this supplement's good. Oh, great. We'll just do that, right? But you gotta, there's another layer. Right? Yeah. You got to dive in, like you got to call the company and say, well, where are you sourcing these ingredients from?
Well, and so for speaking of layers, to give the people listening context, so when Michael and I are sitting here talking about food healing, there's a food healing system that you study out of the CAD book, correct? The Conquering Any Disease. Did you start there with that element? That was a piece, right?
That was definitely a piece.
A piece of it.
Yeah.
Right. So but what he's talking about is basically these systematic approaches to food in order to prevent and reverse many diseases, right? Many things that the American populace goes through. So this food healing approach that Michael's talking about is the infrastructure that he's got. that he uses, right, for clientele, for your own.
To this day, I still go back to that all the time.
Right. It's your own personal living style. But there are some key parameters, and we'll touch on those probably during the podcast a little bit. But just so people understand what you're talking about when they say food healing, right?
Right.
To give context, because for us, this is like common language. But if people are listening and they're not hip to this, it's this approach through using food essentially as medicine. And there's lots of different ways to do it. But there's a lot of amazing ties to how to do this. So part of this piece, right, what you're talking about is this addition with the food healing system is also the integration of herbs, top quality herbs, and technically food and herbs, right, are still under the same umbrella. It's something that we're ingesting and we're taking in. So when we're talking about your tonic herbs and you're talking about this in relation to food, talk to us about a little bit about how you're framing. Kind of like more or less, I mean, I know it's a synthesis, but your philosophy of food, food is medicine, and then how the herbs fit into that. So we can kind of just give people like a framework to plug into. Yeah,
no, that's great. Yeah. On a root base, right? Which of course the root is everything, right? and on a root base, I would say if we were going to simplify it into one concept, real simple, and then expand from there, I would say, the body is capable of miraculous change, right? Capable of reversing disease, capable of reversing injuries, and I'm a testament to it myself with major knee injuries and stuff like this, and modern medicine saying that I should have surgeries, and me reversing it with naturopathic food healing medicine and herbs, and to this day can do anything that I could do back in my 20s and 18 and younger. And ultimately it's give the body what it needs to heal itself. Yeah. Right. And so part of that, it's food and it's herbs, but it's also the mental, right? The spiritual, you're a whole being. And I think the biggest problem that we have done, the biggest disservice that we've done for ourselves is always separating. My arm hurts. This is happening to me and all this stuff, instead of really dialing in on checking in as a whole being. Where am I? What am I observing? And I being the all of that is, right? Sure. And then identifying, sometimes in this day and age with food, right? We notice that, there's a lot of great documentaries out there like Super Size Me and Matters, right? All these different things. Yeah, you get a lot of good information and some good insights. And what I find interesting is when you look at it, you look at the fast food industry, the candy industry, right? These different areas. Yeah. And they're geared to provide chemical reactions, right? On a simplistic note, right? They have combined these different sets of chemicals to create a flavor profile that, maybe if it's a chocolate desserty thing, right? Maybe it inspires the bliss chemical or something, right? But it's derived from, materials that aren't beneficial to your body, but it creates an addictive response. Like I don't know if you recall, but when the Coca-Cola went on record, and for how many millions of dollars they spent. Determining what chemical. Absolutely. And you know what changed when they did that? What's that? Nothing. Right. Because everyone's already addicted. Right. Everybody's hooked anyway, right? Right. But so the thing of it is like, so all of a sudden the point of it, right, is that we dial in and we're like, I want a burger, right? Yep. And I want a burger or something like that, or I'm craving a chocolate candy thing or something, right? And then what happens is they go and they eat that thing, but then they feel good for the moment while it's coming in, and then they drop out, right? Yeah. Or they go to McDonald's or wherever, right, and they eat that fast food meal, and for that moment they're satisfied or feeling good, and then all of a sudden, it's not. All of a sudden they drop out, or they're hungry again really quickly. There's a crash. There's a penalty for dialoguing with it in some capacity. There's something not favorable happens usually. Exactly. People go through a process that's not particularly good, and I think like the undercurrent of what you're talking about too is
this basic idea of processing of food, right? Too much processing. And I think that you would agree, as would a lot of the healthcare people that I connect with, that getting the unadulterated, non-processed foods into your diet and having your hands in the preparation as opposed to so you know what goes into it is considerably more important at this stage in the game than getting low calorie, low fat processed foods that you're not touching or making, because there's a lot of bullshit in them. There's a lot.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, no, you really hit the nail on the head, right? So many people talk about how they need to remove, fats or remove this, and it's like, everyone always asks me, well, how many carbs should I get in a day? How many calories? And it's like, yeah, there's an importance to that, sure. There's if you look at the science of it, of course.
Yeah, basic macros, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I would say on a simplistic level, it's more about what are you putting in. It's kind of like breakfast, right? The term breakfast is breaking fast. You fast all night. When you have breakfast is less important as to what you have at breakfast, right? Yeah, agreed. I mean, there was a doctor I was just listening to just the other day, and she was even talking about it. She was like, the breakfast, it doesn't matter if it's at 8 in the morning or 11 or 2. It's whenever you decide to break from that fast. Obviously, hydration. I tell my daughter all the time. I say, I ask her. I say, well, how long can you live without food?
Right? Quite a while. Yeah.
Quite a while. They say about 35 days before everything starts to really shut down. Right. How long can you live without water?
Way less.
Yeah, it's like 4 days, 4.5 days, right? And then you're in renal failure and everything, right? So clearly you need water more than you need food. But what do you need more than water? How long can you live without air, right? On average, about 4 minutes. And that's assuming that you had a perfect scenario where you oxygenated your body and now you've been closed in and there's no air and you're calm and steady, right? Otherwise, it's like some people are like, what? It's 20 seconds, man.
Yeah. So, absolutely.
But the point too with the food is like when someone eats a raw, nutrient-dense meal, right? They feel satisfied longer. And they feel better. Their energy is more like a streamline instead of a big and then a drop, right?
Absolutely.
And so with that, it's really about check into your body. It's about learning what is your body really asking for, right? Sometimes it's like, oh, I'm craving chocolate. I am a chocolatier. I love chocolate, right?
Yeah.
So chocolate is great.
Yeah.
I like Criollo variety cacao, right? Jungle grown, right? Raw, organic, none of the junk that they put into chocolate. Yeah. However, sometimes you got to touch base. Like, why am I craving it?
Yeah.
Right? Is it that I'm craving? Am I lacking magnesium? Right? Or what is it that I'm feeling that I need? I apologize. I just noticed that my computer is not turned in, and I got turned on, and I got a little buzz. So if I can just 2 seconds reach over.
Oh yeah, this is
why it's not charging.
Yeah, do your thing, man. This is the nature of live recording. So yeah, no, I can hold the fort down while you do your thing. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
No worries. So just to the people that are listening, so this piece that Michael is talking about is really important in the larger context. This whole idea that we've got food as medicine is an idea that is very common in a lot of cultures, but it's not pressed in the West so much. There's a lot of food as calories, and it's broken down into the macros, right? How many carbohydrates, how much fat, how much protein. And when we get to this, and when we only think of it that way, that's problematic for a bunch of different reasons. It's important to have those things, but we have to think of what we would call the energetic profile of foods. So the temperature, how it affects the body, what organ systems it addresses or helps. And yeah, it's a relevant point to think about. Did we get you back, Michael?
Yes, I'm having a new charger cord brought down for whatever reason.
No worries.
It was plugged in. It just decided it didn't want to work.
Yep. Fair enough. No worries at all, man. So I was just saying, as you stepped away to handle your tech, I was just saying that, thinking of this idea of food as medicine and understanding it in that context outside of just blind calories, right? Proteins, carbs, fats. So we'd kind of touched on this, but just to keep the ball rolling, you were talking about what people are craving, why they want something, the thing that they're actually wanting from the food. And this points to the underlying mechanism when we eat things. We are typically, and this is true for if you want a burger, you might want a load of protein and fat at that moment, and you default to, your body knows that the burger has those things, but there's also probably some other foods you could probably do and get your own hands on that are still going to meet those needs where you're creating it, and it's not just the potential for bullshit goes up tremendously when you're not when you're going out to get food. There's a lot more variables in terms of what can go wrong. So when you're talking about this, what are your thoughts about, when you guide people to eat quote unquote healthier, right? You're creating the food, you're having hands-on in the process, what's going into your food. What do you give? Where do you start with people? What's your kind of baseline approach to getting people to eat better collectively? Because a lot of people eat like shit. There's a lot of people that just don't, and they're not even meaning to. They just, they don't have the background, or they don't have the education, or they don't understand it, or it seems overwhelming. So what's a simple way to get people moving in this direction?
The first thing I ask everyone, when we do consultations and stuff, I ask them, check in with yourself before we even begin, because I have them give me a log of what they've eaten for the last week, right? Mm-hmm. And like how deep that goes and stuff. And I ask them, I say, check in with yourself. What kind of person are you? And what I mean by that is, are you the kind of person that needs to be like, I'm an all-in kind of person? Mm-hmm. I have to go full in so that I can be successful? Yeah. Or am I a dip a toe in or a dip a foot in, right? Because once we can identify which of those categories you are, some people want to make the smallest of change and see if they can be consistent with it, see if they notice anything. Yeah. Because they're not sure what they want yet, right? So we got to identify that. If we know that for me, I'm typically an all-in kind of person. I am just let's go for it, because otherwise I give myself excuses or reasons to be able to be unsuccessful. Right. Right. And I am aware of myself that I historically have been my own worst enemy. Right. Yeah. In that I have a ton of ideas, I have a ton of inspirational things, and I start to do them, or as I go through, I start to realize that, like, well, but that little chatter in the background says, oh, yeah. Well, but are you really that good at it, right? And all of a sudden it's like, well, yeah, but maybe I'll go over here, right? Yeah. And so for me, I'm an all-in. Like, if I'm going to make a food change, let's just do it. Let's see what it's like, right? So once we know where we're at with that, then I say, okay, commit to 30 days. Because let's face it, if you could maybe go all day not eating on a regular basis without even thinking about it. That could just be what you naturally do. Yeah. But the day that you have to go in for surgery and they say, Gray, it's at midnight, you can't eat now until 8 a.m. Yeah. Right? Which maybe you're normally not eating then anyways, right? But you can't eat, and then you're going to have surgery, and then after that, then you can eat. There's like this trigger that hits, right, in your mind where it's like, holy crap, I have to eat. What am I going to do? And next thing you know, you're either ravaging up to that time, or your whole time leading up to the surgery, you're just in torture because you're like, oh, I just need to eat something. Yeah.
The mental game is real, for sure.
It really is, and that's the key, right? So that's why it's like, all right, commit to 30 days. It's obtainable. It's saying, I'm going to do 30 days, and at 30 days, if I decide I don't like it, I'm going back, right? So I'm not saying I'm quitting something. I'm saying I'm taking a pause.
Yeah, this kind of makes me, side tangent a little bit into just this whole notion of diet, how we tailor diets to ourselves, what we do for
that word.
Yeah. What we do for people, right? And how we find it for ourselves, because I've found this, and I know a lot of people, the different types of the styles of eating. There's ketogenic, right? There's paleo, there's vegan, there's pescatarian, there's God knows macrobiotic, there's you name it. There's so many different types of diets. Some of them fad, some of them long-standing, whatever. But there's so many, and people, I find that when I work with clients too, there is this, they're always asking, like, what's the best diet to get on? And it's a question, I'm like, that you're thinking of it the wrong way. I'm like, I can't tell you the best diet for your body. there's a certain amount of trial and error that I think we all have to go through, because a lot of people have never given themselves the space or liberty to explore a diet, or they think they hear about keto, they read about it, and they're like, keto, it says it does all these amazing things, it's the diet, it's the one, and they do it, and they might feel amazing.
It's up in your face,
right? And they're like, well, I feel great, you know. And other people I've seen do it. I mean, I know lots of people who have tremendous success with keto. Absolutely. And then I have people who do it, like myself. I tried keto for a solid 4 months. I didn't feel good on it. That diet, for whatever reason, just did not. It's too much fat. I think I'm kapha, you know, from the Ayurvedic, you know, so it was just too heavy. And I thought most people feel really light and energized. I was like, not me. That was a heavy swamp suit. Just walking around, I thought, I feel like shit. This is not going to be the move for me. So I think it's, as you're talking about diet too, it's like there's this piece that we have to, it's a diet is as unique as our fingerprint. I feel like in a lot of ways we have to, man, you got to like go through the gamut of trying things. Like you said, 30 days. How do you actually feel? You know, on paper, the theory might be amazing, but at the end of the 30 days, you feel like shit, maybe mentally and emotionally and maybe physically. It's like, why are we doing it? Why are we sticking with something if it's not really going to be beneficial, right? Right.
Well, and that's the thing, right? It's like you've got, you know, now in Chinese herbalism, right? If we're going to do Shizandra, right? There's this standing rule of the 100 days, right? So you got to plan that you're at least doing 3 months, right?
Absolutely.
And and there's a reason for that, right? But it's the slow build, and you know, so I say, you know, 90 days is excellent if you can go for it, but start with your baby step, right? 30 days, because it takes 30 days to create or break a habit, right?
Yeah.
You know, smoking, right? They say typically 7 days the nicotine's out of your system.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
But then you've got however long of a habit, right? And in most people's cases, it's not even that they even liked the cigarette. It was this hand oral fixation type of thing, right? Some people get a tongue ring. Years ago I used to smoke.
Yep.
Right? And I didn't like how I felt on it, right? Yeah. And yet it was, part of it was social, part of it was just looking for an escape, right?
Yep.
And one day I realized, like, man, I was attempting to quit, right? Because everything's pauses until you can only quit something once, right? Yeah. So I was attempting to quit, and I was in my pause, and I was like, you know, the problem is I need something to do, right? And so I can't chew on my tongue all the time. And then someone was like, dude, you should get a tongue ring, right? And I was like, tongue ring? So I started looking into it. Right? I got to research everything, right?
I'll do that. I'll stick some shit through my tongue.
Through my tongue, right? Yeah. So you know, to me, I'm a huge proponent and a big believer in chance favors the prepared mind, right? Learn about what you're going to do, whether it's a lifestyle change or whatever. And so even in that, I researched the tongue ring, and I did go get one.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I didn't have one of the horror stories happen. But for the longest time, it actually allowed me to become successful at breaking that habit.
Yeah.
Because I would just spin the thing in my mouth, and you know, and it was a cool thing for the time. I didn't do it because it was the popular thing at the time, which shortly in the time range it became.
Yeah.
But for me, it was I had a purpose.
But it's baby steps, getting you baby steps to the goal, right? Little things. So it's back to this piece, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because when it serves its goal, or when it serves its purpose, you can move on to the bigger piece, right?
Right.
And so one of the things I always tell everybody is, like, we talk about dairy, right? There's a couple of things that I'm really adamant on besides sourcing, right? It's like removing dairy from the diet, right? So some people immediately, when you say remove dairy, they're either like, ah, you know, or they're like, dude, I don't drink milk. And it's like, okay, great. It goes beyond that. You're using butter, you're using these different things. Now, I used to talk about dairy, about removing it as a kind of an all-encompassing bad. But of course, science would indicate there's elements where it's not an all-encompassing bad. It's about knowing the details, right? And so if you've got the time to tell them, then you do it, right? So it's like, what do we know about dairy? We know that first and foremost, from a simplistic standpoint, right? Animals, including cows, after they reach a certain age of maturity, no longer drink the milk, right? all species, right? We're the only ones that in adulthood still ingest dairy.
Yeah. Yep.
So that says something. Two, we know about the calcium and the function of the cow's milk and how it's designed in nature to create to grow a couple ton cow, right? Versus, okay.
Yeah.
So, but then we have the element of what does it do in us on a simplistic note? It promotes heavy mucus and inflammation in the body, right? From a Chinese herbal standpoint, that can wreak havoc on certain organs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so if we know that, then to me, that's enough to already want to be like, all right, maybe I should pause on that, right? I say for 30 days, just remove all dairy. Look at every label and make sure it doesn't have dairy associated.
No extra.
No extra anything, right? And check in with yourself at the end of 30 days. How do you feel? That's important. It is very important. And the other side is more of the more recent research would indicate that there's the difference between an A1 and an A2 cow, right? In America, it's all A1 cows, right? And overseas, there is a type of cow, it's an A2 cow. And what research is indicating at this point is that the people that have high allergy response to A1 cow, right, don't have that with the A2 cow.
What is that classification mean? A1, A2. What does that mean for people that don't know?
Yeah, I mean, it's the, I forget the exact. I don't want to tell you the wrong information. So, it's a type of classification of the dairy cow. That they just kind of created. It's not that they're eating any differently. I think it ultimately has to do with the enzyme profile, right? Meaning like the A2 cow doesn't have the casein problem that A1 cows have. But I know there's a more detailed reason for it, but that's in a nutshell. Yeah.
No, I just want to give context, so people can understand a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and there is two companies, I think, right now in the States that are selling A2 butter. Right. Now, here's the other thing, and this has been the argument that people try to have, anyways. And for me, it's not an argument because I can see the logic in this one side, whether it's A1 or A2. Right. There has been an ongoing conversation amongst raw foodists and vegans and all the different classifications. About how if it's raw dairy, then it's better for you. I agree.
Yeah.
I do agree because when you pasteurize the dairy or just about anything, right, you remove a lot of beneficial enzymes, right?
Absolutely.
Now, the other side of that is okay, you don't pasteurize it, but it is still full of bacteria and blood and enzymes and that kind of stuff that, maybe you don't want, right? Yeah. Me, I'm totally content without having dairy. I felt amazing after 30 days. That was my goal. Because giving up the drinking of milk was easy. And I find that to be across the board for most clients. Yeah. Right? That part's easy. It's the part where the foods that they're eating that they realize, oh my God, that's got dairy in it, right?
100%. Well, and this is let me interject here because this is really interesting and this illustrates the point beautifully. So Michael's talking about, dairy. A lot of people consume dairy, right? It's a big piece of American culture. So this is interesting because I was kind of, what we would call of this lineage, of non-dairy, and recently, as of about a year ago, my family has a lot of thyroid problems. And, if you look at this illustrates the point we were talking about, right? How many different ways you can approach diet where it's often true for one person is not necessarily true for another. Exactly right. My whole family has thyroid problems, right? Thyroid problems exist on my mom's side for sure. My aunt, thyroid, my cousins, my mom. And so one of the things I found this guy, Tom Brimmeyer, who comes from the Weston Price School of Knox. And, he was saying, look, not all dairy is created equal, but there's a certain function in the body, right? When the thyroid goes out of whack, the liver goes out of whack. There's this domino effect of bad things that can happen. He's like, now specifically for the thyroid deficient person, the right dairy can actually be very good in small doses to have into your system. And I remember thinking every red flag, when I read that, was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm
Right.
like, I've studied this stuff, talked to a lot of people. It sounds like bullshit, but it was one of those things. I tried it, and it was fairly remarkable. My mucus dropped, like it got less when I actually incorporated raw dairy. And then my mom attempted to do the same thing, and she noticed very quickly, like the pasteurized dairy would create a ton of mucus. The raw
Right.
would like not at all, but she had to have less of it. And so
Right.
there's this piece, right? It's like yeah, because I would agree with you. There's a lot of people, a lot of clients, when I've actually done their intake and talked to them about what they're eating, I'm like, yeah, you need to avoid dairy. And they're like, well, do you, Gray? I'm like, no, I actually eat some dairy. And they're like, well,
Right.
they're like, what the fuck? Why? Like they're almost like, if you're telling me not to do it, why are you eating it? I'm like, because everybody's a little different, and you gotta find this flow. But I agree, man. I mean, like collectively, I would say at the broad stroke level, most of the time dairy does not like serve people collectively, and a lot of it is really crummy dairy that's not even coming from, it's not grass fed, right? It has a different fat profile, and this is what you said, which I really appreciate. It's in the details, right? It's like these little things, sourcing. Because when people are like, well, I drink milk and I feel like shit, I'm like, that's true, but you realize there are some very real differences to different types of milk, different types of dairy. Raw goat cheddar, is it grass fed? Is it come from corn? Does it come from GMO corn? Is it pasteurized? Is it homogenized? There's all these things, and this is overwhelming for the average American, because we're like, what the hell, right? There's so many things that we have to assess, and you're almost forced into becoming informed. If you want to navigate this terrain, all of us have to adopt this mind of researching. We have to know the process of food. We also have to understand a little bit about animals' bodies, what they do, like what you said, right? It's cows, like what animal drinks milk their entire life?
Right.
It's a big thing. And in India, right, there's geographically parts of India that are more vegetarian, and they rely on more cream and dairy from the cow. But even they would talk about that, like when you look back to those rhythms in India, they would see these people when they were going through and having dairy, they're like, it's cyclical. There's periods where they have like what you would call a dairy drought, because the cows are like not pregnant. So it was like these like loading phases of dairy when they would have it. And one of my teachers in school used to call, he's like, dairy's liquid meat. You got to think of it. You have to think of it like that. So I like what you're saying, but I think it's just good to interject. It's like, this is the conundrum, right, that we're stuck with. It's like, collectively, too much sugar, too much dairy, it's not good for most people. And then there's also some exceptions to the rule depending on the person,
No, you're absolutely right. And, I think you hit something really good too, just a minute ago too. You talked about how they're not all created equal, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really true statement across the board, right? Yeah. Because if you think about it, not all massage therapists are created equal, right?
Or any
you can go to a massage and have like your world changed, and you can go to a massage and be like, I just can't believe I just paid someone to rub my skin, or I walk out and I'm like, oh my god,
just a poke and prod, right? You're like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. And same thing with the mechanic, right? You got, and so it's across the board, whether it's your car, whether it's food, whether it's animals, there's such subtle differences. And even if they went to the same school, someone could be more intuitive than another, and that can change just a little bit, right? 100%. And that holds true into the food. And I think that's why one of the problems in America is that we are all about the quick fix. We're all about the give me that pill. I can't tell you how many people are like, I tell them about Natto, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, can't I just have a pill? I'm like, bro,
a pill's so much easier, man. People are like, a pill's easier. They just want to, exactly. There's no, I don't want to put effort into this.
But then of course you get the other side of that too, where they're like, I take too many pills. I got, it's like, well, can I just have one? No, there isn't just one magic pill. It's about the food.
Yeah.
Listen to the body. I think people can do too much. I mean, I have a store.
Yeah, I know.
And
I've seen your stash. Yeah, it's quite it's quite impressive. All the stuff you got.
And especially when it comes to the herbs, like my morning tonic, some days I just do a real simple, right? Maybe a spring dragon tea base, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll throw some, if I know that I'm going to have maybe a little bit of a stressful day, I'll throw some Albizia Shen drops in there. And maybe I want to make sure that I have some balance. So I always think about, even if I'm doing a simple tonic, I want to balance the three treasures, right?
Yeah.
The Jing, Qi, and Shen.
Yep.
And for people who don't, maybe should I touch base on
yeah. No, I was going to jump in right there because people that are not Chinese medicine people don't know what the hell Jing, Qi, and Shen are.
Right.
We should talk about it. So yeah, you give your little spiel. I'll talk about mine, and then I want to bookmark just that I have one more question about food as well. So just as we go forward, but yeah, keep going. So yeah, let's talk about Jing, Qi, Shen real quick.
Yeah. So I simplify the concept of Jing, Qi, Shen in the in that candle. Right.
Yeah.
People,
the kerosene lantern. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like you have so much wax in the candle, right? And when the candle burns down, right, can the candle live? Right? Can you keep the flame alive? And the answer is no. Right. And so the idea is the Jing is your life force, your life essence. Right. It's your reproductive self. It's your emotional centers. Right. It's really your foundation. It's your root of all.
Yeah.
Right. From a Qigong perspective, it's your ability to tap into the yin energy of the earth as well as to connect with the yang energy of the heavens, right?
Yeah.
So that's your Qing. And in Chinese medicine, both food and herbs wise, there's not much in the way of growing your Jing, right? Mm-hmm. But there is a lot of herbs like Hesha Wu and things like this, black sesame seeds for a food, right? That can help kind of stabilize the Jing. A little bit to make it more like sipping on it instead of burning.
Right, and let me interject there, just as you're continuing to explain what Michael's saying is, it's all Chinese medical theory, and one of the things they talk about with Jing is that you do have to use your Jing to be alive. Like there's no getting around this using that reserve. We have to use it, and when it's gone, fully gone, it's death. Like that's out. So Jing is always being consumed, but you do want to be judicious in the burning of it, and you want to go through it as slowly as possible. And sometimes you can't. There are terrible things that happen in life, accidents, losses.
Major stress response.
Yes, we have people lose children. I mean, terrible things happen in the world, and when those things happen, your Jing gets hit, and that's the ticket to be in here, in the flesh suit for a period of time. So anyway. Man. You got to use it, but you want to conserve it. So keep going with the rest of your thing there.
Yeah, it's for a side note to that too is I'll never forget the first day I got my first gray hair. Right.
Yeah.
I take in so many herbs and I eat really clean. Like I definitely don't waver.
No, I know. Yeah, you're militant. Yeah.
Yeah, and because I really want to see. What could I always fall short myself, but I'm curious, what am I capable of? If I put all the pieces together, work on my martial arts, have good sexual energy, eat really clean, right? Exercise, stretch, right? Get proper rest, good thought process, right? What could I do?
Yeah.
Right. And there's always something that falls short, I'm working on it. But I'm really militant, and the food I never let slip. That's one that I'm just like, I'm rooted in there because I know I feel better.
Staying with that.
Yeah, and so with the Qi, so Qi is the second element, right? And so with the candle, you got your Jing is the wax, the Qi is the flame, right? And the cool part with Qi is that it's everywhere, right? It's the air we breathe. It's in the food that we eat. It's the wall. It's everything, right? There's different vibrational patterns that they frequent at. And so like the wall, you could look at the wall in two ways. You could say the wall, I can touch it, it's solid. You could say it's solid because as a collective, we have agreed that is a wall and it just becomes the wall, right?
Yeah.
So there's the esoteric perspective. You could also then from a more scientific perspective say on a molecular scale, it's Qi, it's energy, moving at such a slow rate that it becomes solid to us, but it's still in motion, right?
Right, what they're always pointing out with quantum physics, most of the universe is empty space, right? Like in a desk, it's mostly empty space. There's a few pieces that kind of keep us from passing through it, but collectively it's that. And a side note, this is good. We can have our little side tangents as we're going through the three treasures. So when we're talking about Qi, right, this is because when I work with people, I have sometimes people who are Chinese medical people, and then I have people who are just they have no background in Chinese medicine, and they hear the word qi and there's an eye roll. It's like, oh fuck, here we go.
Nice.
Like, here we go, qi. Here we go. Like, okay, what Jedi trick are you going to pull now? And so it should be made known to people that when we talk about qi, yes, is qi sensationalized nowadays? Yeah, big time. If you go onto YouTube and you look at Qigong masters who are doing the, immaterial Jedi moving or projecting their hand, there's a lot of bullshit out there. And then it gets wrapped up in this concept, and I think and then it negates the potential of understanding something deeper, unfortunately.
Right, that's true.
So when we're talking about qi, it's very difficult to translate. When they say qi is, they say, the vital breath, energy, there's some translations. But when you look at the radical of qi, it's rice with steam. And so what that points to is they're saying is that there's a material structure to something. It can transform, and then it can transmute or change and give off vapor or steam. So what they're also pointing to when you look at the radical for the Chinese character of qi is they're saying qi is about a process, right? It's something in progress, transforming. And so it's not just like this empty energy. It's usually like there's a form, there's something happening, there's growth. And that's, rice by itself, you can't just eat rice dry unprepared. You have to put it in water, heat the water, it soaks up the water, it becomes soft and squishy, and then you can eat it. Like, that's qi. It's a process, right? It's multiple things. So what Michael's talking about he says, he's like, the different types of qi, when you look at qi is so broad in the Chinese culture. They have the qi of that person is great. The qi of this food is fresh. The qi of the couch is quite nice. We don't say the energy of that couch is nice. We don't think of it like that. But what they're saying is it's like the qi of the couch is nice, which means the carpenters that built it had a good, mindset. They used the appropriate wood with good colors, and they outfitted it appropriately. And this whole picture, that's qi.
Feels good.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's a process, though. It's not just this empty, woo-woo energy. It's like, no, qi is about this thing. And then in the body, right, we've got bioelectric current, bioelectricity, right? We have the central nervous system, which is electrical in nature, and our nerves pump, electrical impulses. Body's mostly water. We conduct electricity very well. And yeah, it's right through diet, food, herbs, mindfulness. That current can be kind of ratcheted up, right? Nerves can relax. The flow is a little smoother. And that's what they talk about, having more qi, right? It's not just like, I've learned from the dark Sith Lord and I have more, more qi. Because people get that and they're always asking oh, are you going to use your qi? I'm like, we're using qi right now.
That's exactly right.
We're using bioelectricity to talk, this is not a woo-woo thing. But I think it has to be kind of brought down sometimes because people get too far out into this mystical thing. It's like, oh, the qi. And I'm like, yeah, but it's like, we're all using, I always tell my students, my Tai Chi students, I'm like, look, you guys, they're like, but do I have qi? I'm like, look, if you have a pulse and you're breathing and you're here, you have qi. Like, if you're alive, you have it. We all have it. So in any case, and
that's the funny part too, right? Because it's all about the root.
Yeah.
Qigong, Tai Chi, all that. You can go through in either, right? Qigong or Tai Chi, it doesn't matter. You can go through and have a beautiful form. You can have this all look gorgeous and all these pieces, and yet if you're not tapped in, meaning if you're not rooting into the earth, right, to really settle and allow that subtle energy and flow to permeate and dance with you, right? Yeah. Then it's just movements, right? Sincerity of practice, right? Yeah. And I worked with a guy, which will tie back into the qi, right?
As we navigate this terrain. Any side tangent.
But I worked with this guy. He came to me. He used to work at Abt Labs, right? Or Abbott Labs, right? And nuclear physicist. Okay. And this guy, very much in his head. And he came to me to get massage. Is how he originally found me. As most people do. They come to me when they've got something broken. That's how people end up finding me. I'm not like, I've never, 15 years, never spent really anything in the way of advertising because I've just always been like, when someone needs what I do, they'll show up, right? And I'll be present to them, right? But so this guy, he comes in, very interesting guy, right? There's something almost eclectic about scientists, especially physicists. They're
Oh, they're wacky,
very,
dude. They're wacky.
Very interesting people, you know?
Yep.
Yeah. And you got to be on your A game too, because if you're not, right, they're always looking for any way to pick something apart, which is fine, you know, because it's like, man, I like that.
That's what they do.
Yeah. So anyways, this guy comes in and I had been teaching Qigong a lot at that time, and was promoting the smoothies and all this stuff, you know, which we'll side note with the CAD thing to go back into that in a minute too. But so I'm working on him, and we start talking about energy, and he's like, all right, what kind of energy are you talking about, right? And you know, and I was like, well, it's like subtle chi. It's, you know, it's life force energy. You can't. This is like 8 years ago, or 10, almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and so my knowledge has grown even more since then. But as I'm trying to explain this to him, like trying to share with him how to identify what it is, I'm like, you know, it's better if I just show you, right? Well, of course, you got to kind of relax your mind a little bit in order to really tap in. Otherwise, you're all intellectual and you know. But so as we're talking, I tried getting him to do something. He couldn't quite feel it, but I gave him enough that he was intrigued to. His analytical mind wanted to dive deeper. Yeah. Eventually got him to come and practice Qigong with me. Mm-hmm. Right? And in a short time, he actually felt something. Mm-hmm. Right. And so then we had another discussion about Qi. And he explained to me that there's 4 types of energy. That modern science there's no argument anymore between religion and science and esoteric, right? Everyone agrees energy exists, right? Yeah. It's just in science they have it classified as 4 groups, right? Yeah. And you know, on a molecular level, all the stuff. And so he's going through the 3 that are kind of commonplace, and then he says, now there's this 4th one, and he goes, we don't know what it is. We know that it exists, but we can't quite put our finger on what it is or why. He said, but I'm going to keep diving into this Qigong, he said, because I think that this is it. And he said, what we're calling it is miraculous energy, because it just manifests, you know, and they don't understand why. But so I checked in with him because he had moved from one lab to another in New Mexico, I think. And I checked in with him some couple years later. And he had told me about how the tapping in on a daily practice of Qigong and stuff changed his life and has actually made him a better scientist. Yeah. So just like a sidebar, because he's kind of tapped into it. Yeah, yeah. Because he found his root in a way. You know right. I mean?
Well, and I think it's just opening the mind. You know, in the first podcast, in the first episode, we talked about this. We talked about emotions a little bit, and we were saying these immaterial things. Where are emotions technically? Yes, are they inside of our body? Yes, we conceptualize it that way, but they don't have any material form, and yet we live a lot of our lives based off of emotions, right? There's a lot of that we do. Right. They don't have any form, but we're actively making decisions off of them. I mean, they drive a huge piece of our life. So I think it's a way to think about it too, is that the immaterial has weight in our experience, right? It has weight in our life and those kinds of things. So. But just to reel this back in a little bit. So this started with you talking about herbs, right? And we're talking about Jing, the herbs that touch that, Qi, which are this little tangent, and then the Shen component. So we can tie up this piece of the 3 treasures, and then we can circle out again.
Yeah, yeah. So just to tie that Qi part in together real quick, the ultimate piece of it is that if you're eating foods that are nutrient dense, you're getting a lot of Qi. Yes. You're doing breathing practices, you're getting a lot of Qi. Yeah. Even if you eat less than good food, you're getting some Qi, because it's still energy. Yeah. It's just a matter of how low quality it is, and thus how much it gives you, right? Right. And the point of the Qi is that if you through diet, right, and hydration, all this stuff, if you build strong Qi, then that's one of the ways that you sip on the Jing, right? Yeah. And you help keep that longer, because it'll burn bright. Now, so then the Shen is the light that the flame gives off, right? And so that's your higher self, your connection to spirit or source or whatever anybody wants to. It doesn't matter. There's no religion, anything to it, right? It's your connection to something more, right? It's ironically enough, people would think, oh, it's up here. It's the light that's coming off of here. You know, they say people that are really balanced in the three treasures and have strong Shen have really bright eyes.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like the sage masters. You know, you look at the whites of their eyes and they're always bright. You know. And,
yeah.
And there is some truth to that actually. When you ingest a lot of herbs and you do
Absolutely.
these things, your eyes do get brighter.
Yeah.
You know? Some days I might be tired and they're a little darker, but most days I mean, they kind of glow. That being said, the Shen is actually seated in the heart.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically enough, you know, some people are like, oh, but you know, all like you were talking about with the thought process of everything happens up here, you know, and it's like, well, no, you could be brain dead and live. You could survive, right? Why?
Yeah.
Because consciousness is
the
here.
heart. Right.
It's the heart. It's what we came here to be. Our intellectual is actually what gets us into trouble.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about the the thoughts going on, and Prince Ia said it really well the other day. Actually, I was listening to something he said, and he talked about basically said something that I actually have been saying for a long time, but said it in a really nice, eloquent way because that's what he does.
Yeah.
And he said something about that we observe our thoughts, but we are not our thoughts.
Yeah.
Right. We're in this body, but we are not this body.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I really like that in a lot of ways. I often refer to, when I'm trying to teach meditation, we talk about the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't shut off the internet.
Yeah.
It's a living, breathing organism of itself, right?
Yeah.
In its own way, right? And so how do we shut off the internet? Well, we don't. We shut off the screen that allows us to view the internet, right? Okay, so same holds true when we're trying to meditate. We, or reach that higher state of Shen consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Through meditation or whatever to find that center point. The thoughts that are always going on in our head, that voice that we hear, right? Hopefully it's just the one. Maybe it's 5. I don't know. It depends on the person, right?
Yeah.
But that voice that's constantly going on, sometimes it's encouraging you. Sometimes it's bringing you back. They always talk about the two things, right?
Yeah, the angel and the demon, right?
You're right. But the thing of it is we observe those thoughts. It's like the internet superhighway constantly streaming. And ironically enough, some of our creative processes come from that. But the goal is not to try and, people say, oh, the key to meditation is to silence your thoughts. No. Okay.
Yeah. Disagree.
Get in position, sit down, relax, silence your thoughts. What happens? The first thing that happens is your mind goes, like triple time, right?
Yeah,
It's like saying you can't eat until after your surgery.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're like, man, I need to eat. I'm starving. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So really it's about not trying to resist or shut it off, right? It's more let the screen come down, right? Close the screen. Become present on one focused thing, the breath. We need to breathe more than we need hydration, more than we need food, right? So focus on the breath. If we're trying to do meditation, maybe we're doing a slow inhale, right? Expanding at the belly, really diving into that, right? And then that slow exhale. Before you know it, you're lost into that meditation because you're not worrying about all the chatter because the chatter just becomes white noise.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's this third piece. So like what Michael's saying, these are all kind of points just we're circling around this concept of the Jing, Qi, and Shen. But yes, the analogy that he's using, the one that I've heard too, is that like a kerosene lantern, right? The kerosene, the liquid at the bottom is the Jing, right? The flame is the Qi, and the light that it gives off is the Shen. And so what we're looking at with these 3 pieces that we want, they call them the 3 treasures because we're supposed to protect these aspects of ourselves.
Right.
They are pivotal in the expression of our life force and our longevity. If these things go out of whack, especially Jing, right? If that goes out, then you're really in trouble. But this is the idea that these 3 things they're protected. You understand how they work, right? How we interface with them. So some of the background that you're giving right here around, thoughts, the consciousness, the immaterial, right? The chi that we actually breathe, the food that we eat, and then just the stuff that we came into the world with, right? From our grandparents and that are in our bones, in our genetic material. So all these things we want to protect, but let's circle back to that, man, the herbs. So you were saying, in the morning, right? You've got your tonic herbs that you're getting into your morning ritual. You're trying to protect these 3 things. The beautiful piece about Chinese medicine is that obviously Chinese herbalism, where it really shines and where it's really beautiful, is that it classifies herbs by their function, right? The Chinese spent thousands of years being like, these herbs do these things. It actually protects Jing. We figured out that this one protects Jing, this one helps Qi, this one is good for Shen. So, Chinese herbalism is its own universe, but when you're doing this in the morning, Michael, and you got your routine and you're like attempting to protect these things, right, for health and longevity, what are some of the accessible go-to herbs that you use and that you think are pretty good for people? Because people that are listening to this are like, some of them are like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? There's, this is like crazy Chinese medicine stuff. Right. But at the practical level, right, of these things that, let's talk about like adaptogens, a little bit about what they do, and then the herbs that you use and why you use them. So give us a little framework on that, because then people can plug in and be like, all right, they can Google some things and look up some stuff and, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the herbs that's super important, right, is astragalus.
Yeah.
Simple. It's cost effective, right? It's not a very expensive one. If you're going to get the actual, astragalus is a bark, right? And you're looking for a nice yellow colored bark with white striations coming around for the rings.
When you buy it from Ron Tea Garden at Dragon Herbs, though, it comes in a pill form, correct? So
you can do it a couple of ways.
Okay.
They have a pill form, but it's not just straight pill form. They have it's an astragalus combination, so it's astragalus with a couple other herbs.
Okay.
It's excellent formula. But they have astragalus ET, and Dragon Herbs did a great thing with making these ETs, in that it's a powdered whatever the herb is, astragalus in this case, right? And you can just pour it in water, hot, cold, doesn't matter. It dissolves instantly. Yeah. So it's a really cool concept. And the way that they did it using modern science retains 100% of the plant, or in this case, the bark's efficacy. Right. And that's huge, because there's a lot like we said before, right? There's not everything's created equal. And so there's a lot of companies out there selling this, that, or the other thing that aren't good. There are companies selling the straight astragalus bark, right, that you can just steep and make your own tea with, and the cool part with that is you can make multiple pots of tea, right, with it.
Yeah, well, and you're pointing to, which I want to just interject here with the importance of how an herb is cultivated. So profoundly important, because what Michael is talking about is another piece of not just Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, and these other, what we would call like the older medicine traditions. They take into account how something is prepared, because they are seeing the plant as interfacing with the natural environment. So, cool little quick story on this. There's a guy named Heiner Fruhoff, who's a world-renowned scholar in Chinese medicine. He's amazing. He lectured at my school a few times. He's got a school out of Portland. He's a sinologist, so he can like read radicals. He's fluent in German, Chinese, English. The guy is just a wizard.
Very useful,
but he's brilliant, and it's all classical Chinese medicine, like truly classical, old school. And so one of the things, he came and talked to us at school once, and it reframed the way I understood herbs and the importance of cultivation, was because he said this. He goes, Futsa, which is one of the hottest herbs, okay, and it's actually aconite. It's actually considered, it's a mushroom, slightly toxic, right? Some slightly toxic things can be very good for us. Right. So he said, but a lot of times people will take Futsa, right? They'll have it in a formula, and they have all of these crazy heat signs come up, right? Their faces get red, blood pressure goes up, and we were all like, how can you be so liberal with the use of Futsa when we see all of these problems that arise from using it? Like, we rarely use it. And he's like, look, everybody, he's like, I know you guys are all students, but I'm going to break this down. You're thinking of it wrong. And he goes, Futsa has a very specific cultivation process. He said, Futsa traditionally, okay, classically, was planted on winter solstice, when basically in nature you're at peak yin, which is the soft, right, the receptive, the watery aspect. It's peak yin, everything is resting, and it's like winter solstice. And then he says you plant it on that day, and from each day forward, yang, right, the activity of nature, spring is coming, and then eventually summer. He's like, from that day forward, the plant is accumulating the natural yang, right, the natural outburst of nature growing and moving and getting more for spring, and then fully when it matures at summertime in that, summer solstice. He said the herb is planted on winter solstice. It grows all the way, and then they pluck it out of the ground on summer solstice on that day specifically. And he said, so what the plant has done now, he says, is it's basically soaked up this intelligence from the natural world. It's basically like a biorhythm imprint. That's what it's done. He said, now the futsa, that herb, its only innate intelligence at the like alkaloid level is just to know to grow with nature and basically build yang healthy, and then to stop once things are at their like full peak. He said, so you have to treat the herb like a personality in nature. You're tending to it, and you're giving it like a life cycle, so that when it gets into someone's body, it behaves appropriately. And I was like, holy fuck!
Yeah.
I was like, that's it. Like that's. He talked about one herb, and we were all like, so why aren't we learning this? Why is that not talked about it? In the larger context. So it just points to this piece you're talking about, right? How things are cultivated. So incredibly important in the larger context. So I didn't mean to side tangent you too much, but you're saying
no, but that's why sourcing is so important. That's all, And with Astragalus, there's a lot of companies. Like if you go to Chinatown and you're a white guy, right? Yeah. And you can't speak Chinese, right? You go in there and you say, I mean, Astragalus is a kind of an easier one to go with, right? But there's other ones that they really kind of work on you on. But if you go in there and you want Astragalus, a lot of times what you'll get is Astragalus that was chemically dipped or sprayed in such a way to have it have the colorations that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And as a result, then you're getting, it's kind of like with like you were talking about with traditional Chinese medicine and stuff, right? You have what's called inferior herbs, and then you have medicinal herbs, and then you have tonic herbs, right? Tonic herbs are generally considered safe. Medicinal herbs need to be monitored. Inferior herbs, if ingesting, are definitely need to be monitored, but a lot of times they contain a lot of chemical byproducts, or the sourcing is horrendous. They didn't follow the proper cycle, right? It's like having ginseng that's too young. Right.
It's not good. Right.
It's not good. Yeah. I mean, it can harm the body in such ways.
It does. Yeah. I mean, and that's why Ron Teagarden's lineup is so amazing. And people are going to like dabble in this, right? I say like he's the guy to explore for tonic herbs because he does it so well. Ron Teagarden is just that guy. My hat's off to him. He sources well. He knows his lineage of herbal knowledge is good. It's incredibly good. He knows what he's talking about. So. Let's go back, Michael.
Yeah.
You take Astragalus in the morning, right?
So Astragalus,
and that's a chi tonic. That's a chi tonic. And then give us the breakdown of the other herbs you're taking in the morning.
Yeah. So a side note for anybody who's watching this that's in like a colder climate, one of the cool side effects of Astragalus, it promotes your Wei Qi, right? Which think of it like your external armor, right? Like a thin layer of external shielding, and it boosts that. So it helps with your immune system, but two, it'll help warm you up. Before I started learning any of the breathing techniques, like Wim Hof style and things like this that I started dabbling with years ago. Before that, I learned about Astragalus, and I started working with Astragalus. And I was a guy who wore, I can't tell you, I still have them. I got to figure out who to donate them to. But I was buying a new jacket every year, right?
Yeah.
And the thicker the better, right? Yeah. And of course was doing a disservice for myself. But Astragalus, all of a sudden, I started taking that, and I was noticing I was warmer.
Yeah.
And the cool part is tonic herbs like Astragalus is double direction. So if you're already running hot, some of you might be like, oh, I shouldn't do that. I'm already hot. It doesn't work like that. If something's high, it'll bring it down. If something's low, it'll bring it up. In my case, I was really, my spleen and everything was really deficient, so I needed to come up.
Yeah. And that's the term that we mentioned before, but what he's talking about is the adaptogenic herbs. They regulate, they're what they call stress regulating herbs, basically. So it's if your body's running excess, it will bring you down. If you're running deficient, it brings you up. So they have this harmonizing, balancing thing that they do, which is why they're so good for various different reasons. And just to define that key point that Michael just said for the people that are not Chinese medicine people, and giving context to the mainstream Westerners here, Wei Qi, this idea, it's basically like this membrane between your skin and muscles. And the way you can think of it, they have this idea in Chinese medicine that the body is permeable, right? So emotions can penetrate from the outside into us. the external world, heat, dampness, wind, those things can penetrate us, which is why if we go outside and we're naked and wet and we get cold, people can literally catch cold. This is the idea that like things can penetrate through the skin. So astragalus is one of these things that they say it's almost like it sort of shrinks the pores and tightens the skin so that your body is a little more defensive to the external things in life. Things don't come through. So we don't have a concept like that in the West. The only way I can tell people to think of it is in hyperthermic training, right? If they jump into cold water, the pores, they get tight and they close down, and that tightens the Wei Qi, right? It contracts it. If you go into a sauna, the pores open and dilate, and you sweat and you dump fluid out. And so this idea, right, is that, with like astragalus, it's one of these things that's said to improve that membrane, to make it a little stronger, to make it more efficient. Did you touch on the Jing herb you take in the morning?
No.
So we talked about astragalus first.
We talked about astragalus first.
Okay, so that's a great one.
I figured that's a real simple one for, and they are coming out with just like a little drop-in. Yeah. It's not available yet, but I think that they're, launching it next month. Don't quote me on it, because whenever they decide to launch it is when they're going to do it, but they are creating an astragalus tincture.
Oh, cool. That's great.
That's like a little VIP knowledge there.
Yeah, nice. Very cool.
Yeah, so that'll be cool, because then you got your astragalus portable and stuff, right? All right, so astragalus. Now, again, I was talking, we're talking about some simple items, right? I have a tendency, I have a plethora, and
just the
some days I just throw them in, right? But Hesha Wu.
Hesha Wu, it's a great one.
Hesha Wu is great. Yeah.
And so people that just so to give you guys the spelling on that, it looks like He Shou Wu. So it's HE space SHOU space WU. Because in pinyin the E is a sound, so it's He Shou Wu. But that's so people if they want to look it up. But keep going. Yeah. So
I love He Shou Wu because it's got. You actually feel like you can feel. Oh, I think did I freeze?
Oh, it's okay. It happens with the magic wonders of Skype. Yeah, the audio can keep going. You'll probably pop back on here in a minute. Don't worry about it. But the people watching YouTube are just going to see you frozen in space for a second. So it's all good.
Perfect picture to stop.
Yeah, it'll probably unfreeze at some point. So no worries.
So when you take Hesha Wu, you feel it. You can feel yourself become almost fortified, I think is a good way to say it, and it really is great for the kidneys, right? Mm-hmm. And that's, a major Jing center, right? Yep. And so Hesha Wu can they say that it'll help keep the hair black, like black hair black, right? Or dark hair, help keep the pigment,
Well, and we should note, right? Hesha Wu is jet black. Like it's dark, tarry looking. It's got the pigmentation of dark black, so.
It does. And you know what's funny? I'm sure you can totally attest to this, right? When it comes to Chinese herbs, my first experience with Chinese herbalism as a whole, right, which exceeded beyond tonic herbalism. It was medicinal purpose, right? Mm-hmm, so I was boiling herbs, and and I had gone to a acupuncturist, and they had given me this pouch of herbs that I had to make, right? Yeah. And man, talk about making your house stink, right? I mean, it was. Oh yeah. And the first time I tasted it, I was like, this pouch that I had to do. I was like, oh my God, this is horrid. It just tastes as bad as it smells, right? Yeah. But I was like, I invested this money. I'm gonna do it, right? Yeah. And I started doing it by day 3, because of course you reboil the same herbs 2 days in a row. Yep. And so by day 3, I all of a sudden found myself craving it. Now, next thing you know, I started feeling better and better, and all this stuff. Now, thankfully, with the knowledge on Chinese tonic herbalism and stuff, I no longer need all of the excess of having to do it the old school method, right? I can take certain pills, or I can add the tinctures or add the powders and make and then I take it on a whole nother journey and make them taste good, right? Add cacao to it or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But I find when you, especially when you need an herb, a tonic herb, Chinese tonic herb or whatever, like Hesha Wu, you find yourself when you take it in, your body says yes, right? And you almost crave it, and it brings a nice flavor profile to it. And Hesha Wu doesn't taste that bad anyways.
It's pretty mild,
it's pretty mild. But Hesha Wu, I think, is a great one that's generally safe for everyone. Really can make profound changes. The 100-day rule, I think, really holds strong with Chinese tonic herbalism, because the number one rule in Chinese tonic herbalism as a whole, right, is compliance. I think that's the biggest thing.
You got to take them, right? Herbs don't work if you don't take them.
Exactly right. And taking them today and then I'll remember in a couple of days. It doesn't work like that, right? You got to influx, Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah, you do have to take them, like most things. And yeah, that the Chinese have this idea that when you're practicing a new practice or taking a new herb, you want to give your body 100 days essentially to absorb the practice or to absorb the medicine, so that it's really inoculated. And they also say there's something in there, it's built into that number. When you do something for 100 days, regardless of what it is, right? A new habit, a new diet, a new herb, your body is forever changed and has a very real, definitive relationship with it from that point forward. So, just as a side note, when I was, training martial arts really heavily in my 20s, there were practices within the Chinese spectrum that I would do for 100 days, these plyometric exercises that were really good for the body. And I would do that. I did them, I did it once where I did 100 days in a row, and I can say, definitively my body was forever different as a result. Yeah. Like there was an innate understanding of the movements, right? Because you've just practiced them for 100 days in a row. Exactly. And then your tendons, right? Your tissues kind of change and they get stronger and better. So this idea of 100 days is really good to keep in the dialogue as we're talking about this.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because I think it promotes real change. Another really good herb to do, right? I would say for Shen, I have two major ones that I think are really important, and I'll say why. The first one is reishi, right? Wild reishi, Damwood reishi, purple reishi. They're all really good. Purple reishi. Oh, there we go.
You're back. Welcome back. For those people watching YouTube, Michael was frozen in time there for about 3 minutes or 4 minutes.
Yeah, right. So with reishi, you really can't go wrong with any of them, right? Yeah. Reishi is a Shen tonic. It's for the heart health, right? It works with blood. It's excellent, and you will notice a difference. It's part of the cancer protocol in the CAD book that we were talking about before, right? Taking that in to help cleanse the body.
And the CAD book that we're referring to, everybody, is Conquering Any Disease. So that book is it's a central access point for a lot of the food healing stuff that we're talking about. There's a lot of good stuff in that book.
Yeah, it really is, because what I think just to give proper result to that book, I guess, real quick, is what I think I've just like you, right? My education's gone way beyond what that book is, but what I love about that book is that it takes a lot of information and condenses it down to here's what you need to know. Kiwi. Here's what you need to know. It's got more vitamin C than an orange.
It's all within like a page too. It's not a dissertation on the foods. It's like, here's kiwi. It's packed with vitamin C, and studies show that it helps with asthma. If you have asthma, eat kiwi. And you're like, oh, great, cool. It's such a baseline. It's so straightforward. I think for the mainstream person, it's like sound bites too. It's like anyone can read half a page or a page about something. And then as soon as you're getting bored, you're like, on to the next food, right? On to the next thing that's amazing for you.
Exactly right. Yeah. And then if you're finding yourself really intrigued by something, then there's the cited material where you can go deeper then, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's all referenced, right? Especially the new editions, right? They have all of the scientific literature, so it's not just... I think that was one of the gripes in the first editions where people were like, well, are you just saying this, or is this actually,
Yeah, right.
So, so the new ones, there is that... the citing of the sources, which everyone can reference, which is really cool. So we've got.
So it's a great little one to go with. But with reishi, it's really. I mean, my daughter's grown. My daughter's now 10, and she has been having reishi since she was a baby.
Wow, that's great.
Now some people would be like, "How are you giving herbs to your kid as a baby?" Look, reishi's awesome. It's safe. My kid, if I can give my kid that edge, she's had astragalus since she was a baby, and she's had reishi since she was a baby.
Wow.
Period.
Yeah.
You know, and that kid, I'll tell you what, anyone who sees her is like, right? Because reishi, if you take a tincture of reishi, it's rough. It's
not great.
It's strong.
It's not great.
Yeah, it's not like woo.
Yeah,
yum.
it's not. Yeah, it's definitely not yum. It's like that's interesting.
It's not, yeah, I'm taking my medicine.
I'm taking my medicine. That's for sure.
Yeah. But my daughter will now. I guess to clarify for those who are listening, you should still take reishi, because if you put it in a tea or you put it in water, the dilution effect, it actually brings on a nice pleasant flavor.
Yeah.
But taking it direct is where it's like, oof. And my daughter will every night or every morning take it direct, right?
Yeah.
2-3 copperfuls every morning.
Yep.
You know, she says it's one of her favorite flavors.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Which I think brings a valid point, too, with food, right?
Yeah.
I can't tell you. I hear all the time from people talking about, my kid won't eat this, my kid won't eat that. And who am I to judge anyone's parenting thing, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would like to say we have taken on the job of guiding.
Yeah.
Right? To protect our children, to guide them, to have a better experience than we've had, to learn from our things, but learn from them not because we're saying, don't do this, don't do that, but from observing our actions.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I'm a huge proponent of do what you say what you mean.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I think, and you're pointing to this thing, you know, I hit this with my clients too. People will say, or just even friends of mine saying, you know, my kids won't eat this, they don't like this. And I asked the very simple fundamental question. I'm like, are you making it taste good? Does the food actually taste good? And they're like, well, I mean, it's just steamed broccoli. I'm like, well, steamed broccoli by itself is, I mean, you can eat it, right? But it's not particularly enjoyable. I said, you know, you gotta like season your food. But I think if people don't know how to prepare food, they don't know how to cook, even at a basic rudimentary level, boy, one of your legs is really chopped out. And that's why I'm always encouraging people. I said, even if you don't love cooking, you don't need to become a Gordon Ramsay, right? You don't need to become an elite chef, but you do need to have your baseline understanding of cooking, I think, just to prepare food and to make things tasty, you know, basic seasoning. Otherwise kids won't eat it. I mean, there's a real simple truth. You know, my daughter is 2 and she eats, I mean, everything, but I also make the food very tasty. You know, I was lucky to have cooks as, you know, they weren't professionals, but they just loved to cook. So I was in the kitchen all the time, and it really makes a difference. She eats all the things that other kids don't eat, cauliflower and spinach and broccoli. She's all about it because I cook it with things that she likes. I season it. I put a little salt in it. You know, I use it. I use ghee. I use some coconut oil. I make it tasty, you know, and that's relevant.
Well, it really is, because, you know, I mean, that's I want to make sure that I tell you that other herb, but I don't want to lose this thought too. You know, foodhealing.org started before it became foodhealing.org, just the change of the lifestyle change in my world, right, started out of love. Right. I had been a martial artist since I was 5. I had done tons of different supplements. I've lived all these different lives. I ate like crap, right? I did a lot of stuff. I have a strong constitution, so I'm able to, I really can go eat all that junk and you know, minus the long-term effect problem that would occur. It's not like I was having all these dietary things that were happening right then that forced me to stop. Sure. It was an understanding when I started to learn. You know, I started with smoothies before I found the Conquering the Disease and stuff. I already had a blend tech blender, so which actually, ironically enough, led to when I found that, I was like, oh, he must know something because he's doing what I'm doing. You know? Let's see what's going on here, right? And but it was born out of love, because when my youngest daughter, before she was born, I learned a little bit more about nutrition and health and wellness. And I thought, if my personal journey is wanting to see how good I can become, I already, no matter what, on one point of view, now I'm going to disregard this statement because I don't believe that there's any restrictions in life, but I'm going to say this for the principle. Theoretically, I have already, on a cellular level, created some I don't like this word, but I can't think of a better one right now. Some damages, right, that may or may not be repairable because of my previous however many years of everything else, right? And I thought, man, so I may never really actually see what I could become. But what if I helped this little child who is coming into this world,
right.
to me, has picked me to be the dad, and I have the ability to learn. I have the ability to figure things out. Why should I not give her the best chance I can?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that means that I have to take more time away from things that I might personally want to do or experiences I might want to have.
Yeah.
But I committed to being a parent. That's the job, right? And until you never don't become a parent, but there comes a point when they go off and do their thing, and then you get a little more time to be a little more selfish, right?
Yeah, right. It's just not for a while.
Yeah, exactly. And so I immediately started, at first I removed all meat because I didn't have access to grass-fed beef, and when I learned about what they do to meat, I was like,
no.
Yeah.
The industry, mainstream meat production is a pretty scary.
It's very scary.
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah, so.
Scary. Yeah, and as a result, but then I quickly realized, like, okay, I'm not going to be a vegetarian either. That wasn't going to cut it.
Doesn't work for me either. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially because I had 2 other people already in the household that were used to eating a certain way, and were kind of like, what are you doing? You threw out our peanut butter. You did, what are you doing?
Yeah. Right. You're killing me here, Smalls.
Yeah, exactly right. And but so what was really cool, what started to happen is, of course, as the baby's a baby, she was breastfeeding and this, and I did interject stragglers and stuff into that at an early stage. But as we started to make the baby foods, we made the food. And I will just say to everybody listening, if you have a baby on the way, or someone has a baby on the way, it's all just about a little bit of extra planning. Making baby food is easy.
It's very simple. Yeah.
It's very cost effective, right? And so stop feeding the beast. Just, there's tons of recipes. Nowadays, there's so much information easily obtainable that, it's really heavily simplified to be able to pull it off.
It is. Yeah, I agree. It's very doable, especially with the internet age, where everything is at your fingertips. There's resources. It's very doable. Anyone, even if you don't have cooking skills, making baby food is very straightforward.
Very simple. Yeah, exactly.
So that's good.
And then from there, as the children started getting older, to the point that you were talking about with flavoring the food, my kids would challenge me. They would say, Dad, so and so had, I love making dessert, right? So I'll just use that as an example. So and so had a Twix bar. What does that even taste like, Dad? And I'm like, well, the truth is it tastes like a lot of chemicals, but but what it tastes like is heaven. It's, you get the caramel and all the stuff, and they're like, well, can I have that? And I was like, well, we should learn about it, and then if you want to try it, then so be it. I said, but would you like me to try and make it? And they were like, yeah. So. Right. I know what it tastes like, so I went through and found a way. Now, it's all about you find, and this is, I think, is a key point for anyone who it doesn't matter if you know nothing about cooking. Find a recipe, right? Learn about food. This is how I actually created the Art of Food, a dairy and soy free experience, the first cookbook I made. It was really my journey with my kids. Right. It was creating a recipe based on what they said they liked that I made that day, right? So, in fact, that spicy salmon that I made you the first time that I met you, that actually that's in that book. Actually.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
But they would create a challenge. I would make the food. They would say thumbs up, thumbs down, maybe, and then I would modify. But the key is you learn about foods. Like, that white sugar's not good. What's a good substitute? Well, if you're still going to do a sugar base, maybe coconut palm sugar. It's got good dietary fiber, lower glycemic, right? The way that it functions in your body is different. So it's still sugar, but, that might be a good, easy change. If it's a raw dish, maybe use raw agave. But here's an important factor. Let's just take you open any raw food just about cookbook, right? And you pick a dessert and you look at it, and the one thing I learned when I became a raw food chef is that there's a high tendency for way too much sugar.
Yeah.
Whether it's agave, whether it's coconut palm sugar, whether it's maple syrup, whatever,
sugar.
It's too much.
Yeah.
So just figure whatever your recipe is, look at the sugar amount, cut it in half, start there.
Yeah.
Right? And then you can go lower or slightly higher, but always cut it in half because it's just way too high.
Yeah. No, agreed. Most of the time it is. Yeah. And science is pretty clear, right? Excess of anything is bad, but sugar in particular wreaks havoc. So we don't want too much of that. That's for sure.
Especially with inactivity. So
let's swing back, Michael. We got the Husha Wu, right?
Yep.
That was the Jing one that you suggested. Then we talked about the astragalus.
Yep.
And then we talked about reishi. And then you said, was there anything else that you wanted to touch on as far as the three things that, these are three that you take.
Those are three easy ones.
Easy ones. And we should just add in this note too. If you go to dragonherbs.com and you talk to, Ron Teagard's company, they have acupuncturists and herbalists who actually work, and you can consult with them on the phone, and they'll guide you to herbs you can buy. So Michael is not just giving you just a straight definitive, like one shot for everybody. This is what he does, right? This is what you do. But these are very accessible, herbs that are easy to find, especially through this website to get them and to incorporate them. So in any case, keep going.
Yeah. And initially less is more, right? Yeah. And of course and I'm always open to, when people call into over at foodhealing.org, we'll spend time talking with people too. But yeah, if you're going straight herb route too, if you can't get a hold of me or something, also Dragon Herbs for sure. I mean, they'll give you a good 15-minute consultation.
Yeah,
hear what you've got going on.
They're
it's awesome.
They're very cool.
And so we live in a day and age where stress is just rampant, right? Yeah. We live in a day and age where anxiety seems to be the key term nowadays.
And to the point that something like wrong in terms of stress. Yeah, it's everyone's high.
So here's an herb that is cost effective. You keep it with you, keep it in your back pocket, keep it in your purse, whatever. It's one of the few herbs, as you know, most herbs take time, but it's one of the few herbs that is fast acting. You do notice a difference. It really helps center you in. It's a Shen tonic, and what it is, it's been studied for centuries. And I often share this write-up about it too. But it's been studied for centuries for dealing with severe anxiety, Great Depression, severe major suffering from loss and things like this, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's called Albizia Shen drops. Right? The Albizia Shen drops is the bark, or is the root and the stem and the flowers.
So right? when you call it the Albizia Shen drops, that's the title of the.
That's the title of the tincture.
Oh, that's the title of the tincture that you can get at Dragon Herbs.
And it's just Albizia, but it's all three parts of the Albizia.
Okay, and the Shen is Shen. So people, if they're listening, Albizia Shen drops. Okay, so that sounds like a nice go-to where it's got everything in there. It's
great. It's calming. It's almost like having kava without the potential of too much drop or too much ugh.
Yeah, right.
Because you can overdo kava, whereas Albizia Shen drops, which by the way is on a pretty big sale. At foodhealing.org, I have all that stuff. Cool. All the herbs are on There's a lot of the big stuff. And I am doing with foodhealing.org over the next 6 months. I mean, I'm getting more and more active with kind of trying to give people insights and share this knowledge. I've been getting harped on by people for years now about.
Yeah, man, you got.
Apparently, I know a bit, so I'm supposed to share it.
You got to produce content. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, yeah, and so, but I just had a photo shoot done for all of the products. So over the next 6 months, I'm changing out images. I'm adding more information on there, and I'm the next step after the images are finished being uploaded. I'm doing little mini 2 to 3 minute videos that will be linked from YouTube over to the site, and so you can watch.
Great.
And it'll be like, who is this for? Why did I choose it? The sourcing and whatnot. Who is it for? And how to use it. Right, 2-3 minute, boom, quick. That way, if you don't want to read or whatever, you got. This is why.
Right, and I think it's relevant to note here that obviously as people are listening to this, you guys can see how easy it is to get lost in this information because there's so many different directions to look at it. I mean, I went to, I have a master's degree in Chinese medicine. Some people don't. Doesn't mean they know less. It just means that this is a universe to study this stuff, and you do have to just, take small bites of knowledge and look at things. Don't feel overwhelmed, because I think people hit overwhelm with this stuff. They're like, wait, it's just too much stuff. It's too much information. There's just overwhelming. I want simpler, approaches, which is why I was kind of getting you down to like, okay, what are some basic herbs? So what's this look like in real time that, you take? Yeah. So certainly,
and there's a great base, right?
Yes.
If you just bought this one thing, right, buy Spring Dragon tea. If you're going to just do one thing, Spring Dragon tea, it's cheap. It's like I think I even have it on sale on the site for like $6 and some change for a box, right? And each bag does a couple of servings of tea.
Right, and it has the gynostemma in there, right?
It has gynostemma, the magic grass, right?
Right. They call it it's called jiaogulan, in the Chinese context, and it's like it's a green tea that doesn't have caffeine. They call it the tea of immortality. It's amazing, and it's good for lowering cholesterol. It does some amazing things. But jiaogulan or gynostemma pentaphyllum, I think, is the Latin, which I always like. I like that word. But it's an amazing, one of my favorite herbs. And so the Spring Dragon tea from Ron Teagarden's site has gynostemma pentaphyllum in there with I think a few different herbs, right? It's like a couple others.
It's got that. It's got astragalus is in there. It's got schizandra, right? Schizandra is a great single herb that does all three treasures.
Right.
Right. It enters all the meridians. It has all the 5 tastes, right? Yep. So it's an amazing. That's a great one. That one's definitely 100-day. Women especially love the flavor of that one because it has a tendency toward the bitter sweet direction.
Right.
And that one excellent.
So Michael, swinging back, because I've had this question asked to me quite a few times, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. So we're kind of dancing between like food, herbs. We talked about some of the things, processing. So, you talked about food, removing some things from your diet, right? To see how you feel, right? Doing the elimination approach.
Dairy right out of the gate.
Right. So like
soy.
Pull those things out, right, of the diet. And we established that you need to have a hand in the processing of your food, right? You need to like know what's going into your food. These are baselines for people to like think about when they're approaching food. Be willing to explore, right? Be willing to experiment with different dietary proclivities. This is like the way we can kind of orient ourselves towards health. But people ask me this, right? When we're talking about food, I had just one of my closest buddies ask me this as of 2 days ago. He's like, look, man, he's like, I love your content. I love what you're seeing. I like hearing and learning. He's like, but how for people that are on a budget, right? That are just tight with money, right? And that's a reality for a lot of people who have like a regular job. My buddy's a bartender, he's doing other things, but he's got that, and he's working to make money, but he doesn't have a huge budget. He just doesn't at this stage. Things could always change, and let's be real, tonic herbs can get very pricey very quickly if you have a ton,
for sure.
And organic food and all these things are expensive. So what's your baseline with food, not herbs, but with food? When people are on a very tight budget, what's the key strategy that people can adopt or take when they're approaching this to not break the bank, but to also start moving in a forward direction that's positive and that's healthier?
Yeah, I think that's excellent. So, well, first off, recognize that protein is not just from meat, right? So you don't have to go. Most people's budget heavily falls when they go to the store falls out from the meat purchase because so that's one thing. 2, stores are interestingly set up, like more of the healthier food stores like Fresh Thyme or Whole Foods and stuff. But they're kind of innately set up that if you walk the outer perimeter, right, you're usually going to do pretty well. Nutritionally,
that's where all the best food is, on the perimeter.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so walk the perimeter, get your vegetables in. You can take purple cabbage. Oh my God, purple cabbage is amazing. High L-glutamine, right? It's just so nutrient dense. Yeah, makes you feel amazing. Goes a long way and is super cheap. Yeah, right. And what's cool about that particular one in particular, right, is that you can heat it up and saute it in coconut oil with some Celtic salt, and it's going to bring out some amazing flavors and get really bright, simple, or you can shred that up and make a slaw or have it, and it tastes amazing that way too. So you can have it both as a raw and a cooked. because it's also important to note that 51%. If you eat, there's a science thing on this that if you eat 51% of your daily diet, I don't know why it's at 51, not 50. 51% of your daily diet, if it's raw, it turns off the pro-inflammatory gene. But if it's 50 or less, your pro-inflammatory gene is turned on, and thus, you're producing more inflammation from different things and stuff, right?
Right.
So that's kind of important. But yeah, walk the outer perimeter. You can easily, and here's the other thing too with organic foods. There's not a huge significant price difference between organic food and non-organic food when it comes to the vegetable world.
It's the meats that get expensive.
It's the meats that get expensive.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like if you look at, just to give an example, because I was just at the butcher shop the other day. So like if you have conventional baby back ribs, right, which is just a rack of ribs, which is just meat, it's about $10 for a rack. Then if you go to what you would call the organic pasture-raised pork, that's the same amount of weight, right? It was about $21. It was like double the price for, and mind you, yes, it's a healthier animal. Yes, there's some, it's a cleaner source, but it's also $11 more, and that's a lot of money. So you have to be mindful of these things when we're navigating like proteins. So what are some alternative proteins? What are some proteins? When you said proteins, beans, right, come to mind, obviously.
Oh, amazing. Amazing source.
They come
and soak them, right?
Yeah.
If you soak them, you cause them to sprout. You sprout them, next thing you know, you're right at that sprouting purpose. Now the digestive inhibitors are released, so you're not going to get that stomach upset. You're not going to get, in most cases, the gas issues.
So it seems like a reasonable strategy then, right, for the people that are on the budget, that are tight with money, to say, okay, reasonable. Out of 7 days, maybe make 2 or 3 of your days, non-meat. Like get some beans in there, and you're gonna. I mean, because if you do 3 days, that's almost half the week. You have now just cut out meat costs, right? So switching over to having beans and some quality rice, or whatever your thing is.
Exactly. Well, and here's something to complement that, right? We talked about how quality meat, is really expensive. In knowing what I know about how the meat industry, how they raise them, the conditions that they're living in, the types of, we'll call it substance that they feed them, these different things, I would rather not ingest that at all. If I'm hungry, I'm going to eat nothing and drink my water, since I can live 35 days, right, on average without food. So I can definitely go a day, right, without a problem, before I'm going to eat that kind of meat. So what I would say is this: since we know that there are a large variety, I mean, in America, we eat way too much protein. Yeah. Traditionally, right? That seems to be the general consensus. So, but here's the thing: because we can get protein from foods, because we can get them from goji berries, and we can get them from all these different options, buy the quality meat, buy less of it. So buy grass-fed, grass-finished ground, right? Or whatever the case is, free range, non-hormone chicken, or whatever you're going to do, whatever your
meat is, right?
Yep. Find the best option, and even if it's the lesser quality of, say, a grass-fed, grass-finished beef, as long as it's grass-fed, grass-finished, you're at a plus, and it ends up being cheaper, and then you're being cost-effective. Yep. But have the meat be the accent to the dish. Right. Versus the way Americans have a tendency to do it, they have the meat with the vegetable as the accent. Make the vegetable be your brilliant. I mean, man, you can get creative and fun and easy and quick with vegetables.
Yep.
Have some fun with. Grab some. We sell hand-cracked cashews from Indonesia that are organic and raw, right? Never machined. They freaking taste like butter, right? Grind some of that up, sprinkle it on top of your vegetable dish, whether it's cooked or heated, doesn't matter, right? You put it on top. You could easily make. My daughter and I just made the other day a cashew, super cheap, super amazing tasting, a cashew apple cider vinegar honey Dijon dressing.
Oh, it sounds great. Yeah,
it was amazing. And here's what we did: we took a head of purple cabbage and we shredded it up. This whole meal took like 8 minutes to make, right? And then had 2 days worth of meal. Right. So we took a head of cabbage, shredded that up, and then we took a bunch of carrots, shredded those up, We took some beets and shredded that up. And of course, beets are very earthy tasting and stuff, right?
Yep.
Super amazing for your blood, right?
Yeah.
Super anti-cancer, right? The betaine and stuff that's in there is amazing. So we took that, shredded it in there, and then we took cucumbers and shredded some of it in there, and then chopped up nicely some of the other. And then we took some avocado, and for the portion that we knew we were going to eat that night, we took avocado, opened that up. And it didn't have to be, avocados don't have to be organic and stuff. They just get Hass avocado.
Yeah.
And we put that in there, stirred it in. And then we took, for the dressing, we took a small amount of cashews, like it was like a half a cup, I want to say. And then we took, I could give you the recipe, but it was like 2 tablespoons of cider vinegar.
Yeah, but it sounds like, I mean, it's a simple mix.
It was real simple. A teaspoon of honey Dijon mustard, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of salt, right? And some olive oil and some water. Boom. Blended that up. We had an amazing creamy sauce. You put that on top of it. Now you've got a raw dish that was satisfying. You had amazing fats from avocado. You had huge nutritional profile from the vegetables that were in there.
Yeah.
Right? And you walked away energized, non-lethargic,
right,
satisfied for hours.
Yep.
And it was fast and cheap.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point that we have to think about when we're shopping on a budget, and this is the thing that people forget, is that when you start cooking your own food, and you start making your own food, and you actually buy quality ingredients, you'll be amazed at how much less food you actually have to eat.
Yeah,
that's
it. Yep.
That's like people. I've had buddies tell me that where, for more or less, they've been eating poorly, in their life where they've been, and then they'd come to my house. I'd make them a fresh salad with like dill and arugula, and some ginger and like whatever. I'd make some tasty, really delicious meal, and they're like, half a cup of salad and like half the amount of meat I would normally eat, and I'm full. Like they're tapped out because it's just nutrient dense. So this thing of when we eat bullshit food and we eat garbage food, collectively, the food doesn't have the nutrient profile that our body is asking for. So we eat it, and that's why we can eat fast food, and people are like you said, an hour later, they're like, I want more junk food, because their body's like still hungry kind of.
Right.
So there's a piece there that you got to think about. So when we backpedal just a hair, for the budget, we've got like doing less, right? Less meat, right?
Way less meat. Have it be an accent.
Having the 51% of your diet potentially, you were talking about raw, but you were saying like fill your plate with vegetables basically, right? Have like meat be an accent. So then that's going to cut your meat cost down. And then what else, Michael? Like what else are you seeing in terms of like asparagus
every day? At least 5 days out of the week, have asparagus, right? We are in this society, people don't drink enough water, right? And here's a fun one for people with water, right? And try this for yourself, right? Because each person's a little bit different, but try it for yourself, because it doesn't matter what I tell you, you're going to know when you do it, right? You're supposed to, and of course there's huge debates, so of course certain water people would try and have an argument with me, and I don't really care, because try it, you'll know. Your body will tell you, right? But you should be drinking half your body weight in ounces of water per day, but here's the key: sipping it. Okay?
Not chugging.
Your body, not chugging. If you do a workout, whatever water you drink during that workout, feel free to chug it. It doesn't count towards your water intake. So it's water in, water out. It's a wash. Right?
Yeah.
So half your body weight in ounces of water, sipping it from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. The key being the sipping it, because your body can only absorb a sip of water at any given moment. So if you take a sip, which is like taking a straw and a little, that's like, right? So you take a sip, your body takes that, it disperses that to the blood, lymphatic, vital organs, right? And of course it goes from succession, vital organs out, right? When you take a gulp, your body takes that sip, does that, and the rest of the gulp goes straight to the bladder. Hence why people who say, I drink a lot of water, or I can't drink that much, half my body weight in ounces, you kidding me? I'll be in the bathroom all day. It's because if you're gulping,
right,
and incidentally filling your mouth is a gulp, right?
Yeah.
So you take that in, now you're having to go to the bathroom because it all went to the bladder.
Right.
Well, that taxes the kidneys. So in Chinese medicine, that's where the drinking too much water becomes a problem, because people are gulping, and now you're rushing through your system all this water, which demineralizes your body. It taxes your kidneys to have to process, right? Put some strain on the gallbladder and all this stuff, right? All these different aspects of your body have this discord, right?
Yeah.
So sipping it, if you do that, you're going to notice that do it for a week, right? And just be really diligent. Keep water. I mean, I carry this. A lot of people try. Oh, you got your wine with you, right? I don't do that, right? This is water. This has this nice little carrying thing. It's people know I'm in the room and know it's me no matter what hat I'm wearing or whatever because I've got those water bottle, right?
Yeah.
And the thing of it is because if it's on you, you'll drink it.
Yeah.
If you carry a small little water bottle, you know what happens? You might still be drinking it, but you're going to drink it really, really slowly.
Yeah.
Why? Because you have that subconsciously in the back. There's this. I only have this much water. I got to make it last.
Right. Right. Well, and let me tie this back, right? Because it's like I said, this is easy to tangent on this stuff. Does this explanation tie to the budget question, or is this just a side tangent? Well,
that piece was a side tangent, but the asparagus does because it's a budget friendly one because it doesn't have to be organic. Right? It's great if it is, but it's budget friendly. You don't need a lot.
Right.
And saute it in a little coconut oil with some salt. It's cost effective, and the bigger part of why it's cost effective is because it gives you a lot of bang for the buck.
Right.
Right, kidney health.
Right.
Keep that going. Kidney is the seat of Jing. We want to support the kidneys.
Right. Okay, so that's good. So we've got eat less meat, load up more vegetables, be willing to, do like you said that, the plant proteins shift over to beans, include asparagus in the diet for people that are on the tight budget. And are there any other things that leap out at you quickly in terms of, improving diet, but with, keeping that budget piece? Is there anything else that comes to mind that you're like, that's really important also?
If getting it from the store, if I can jump off from the store for a second to still be budget conscious for people, that will give them a lot of benefit. It's not going to be from the filling your belly standpoint, but it's cost effective and should be, and it is a food. I'm anti-soy, but natto is fermented soy. Fermented soy is a beast all of its own, right?
Yeah, it is.
Because you lose all of the goitrogenic properties and stuff that are impairing us from regular soy. That goes away. And
what about the estrogenic profile? Does that diminish as well? Because that's
with natto.
With natto, yeah. Because so for people that are, if you're listening to this, soy, the big contention and the gripe that people have with it, and that it's touted in studies, is that it's estrogenic. Which means it can throw off the estrogen production in the body, so particularly not good for men. And it has bad implications for women too. So they say don't make soy, especially GMO soy, a staple of your diet. But which is right. But then also when you ferment something, right? This happens with other things we ferment too. There's a kind of an alchemical magic that happens when you ferment things. There's new bacteria that grow that are good. It predigests the food. So this natto that he's talking about, which is NATTO, correct?
NATTO, yep. And if you really want to go deep into it, I've created a site called nattopowder.com.
Great. Beautiful.
All one word.
Beautiful.
Huge information there. Yep.
Great. Yeah, and so the natto essentially is just a fermented soy product. It's like a powder. It's kind of salty-ish. I mean, it's not. I don't know what's the how would you describe natto, but it's
salty, bitter in its natural state.
Yeah.
The way that it was done in Japan for centuries, right? It almost looks like a Rice Krispie treat. You know?
Yeah.
It's gooey.
It's gooey and sticky. Yeah.
And sticky, and it's stinky.
Right.
It's very stinky.
Right.
And to eat it that way, no one really likes eating it that way. It's like I'm eating medicine. That's what I'm doing, right?
Fair enough. Yeah.
I've been really fortunate in my studies and my research and sourcing and stuff, I've been really fortunate to have befriended a scientist in Canada. And it's amazing. And him and I have worked together for years now. We have a great foundational relationship. We both have the same thought process on what we want to help people with throughout their lives and leave this world better than what we found it, right? Be a part of the solution, not the problem.
Right.
And he created a baseline utilizing old traditional Japanese methods of fermentation of natto. And then what he does, and so Bacillus HU58 is derived as a result of this natto fermentation. Now, just to slight cap off.
Yeah.
Our gut health is hugely important. That's if you're going to spend money on one supplement, right? Have it be either through the natto and or through this probiotic that I would suggest, because it's bacillus strains, and that's very important.
Yeah. So this is great though, man, because if you're talking like, the budget, and you have to talk about this food that has tremendous bang for its buck.
Yes. Very much.
And so when they take this with the natto, what's the basic way to make it palatable? This is what's great about it. When he ferments the natto, then he dries it and then powderizes it. Right. So you can.
So it's easy absorbed into everything.
Yeah.
What's great is that I've tried tons of different nattos out on the market over the years, right? And including powdered nattos. And there are powdered nattos that it doesn't matter what you add to it, it's just nasty, right?
Yeah.
And it's just bad. What's great, he uses the base is non-GMO, certified organic soybean is what he starts with the ferment. So you're starting with quality stock, right? It's not crap. And then goes through the process. And what you end up with is there's no getting around the smell of natto. It has a smell.
Yeah.
Okay. It just is what it is. It's actually more milder than most nattos that I've smelled. It's kind of mild, but this natto has like a soft, nutty flavor to it almost, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what's great about it, because you could take it by itself and it's like it's medicine, but I'm taking it. It's quick. You only need, depending on what if someone's dealing with osteoporosis or something, I'm going to say do 2 tablespoons a day. You do 1 in the morning, 1 later in the day. The reason for that logic versus doing both is that so that you never peak and valley. You stay consistent.
And that's one of the things that should be noted here, because it's common knowledge for you and I, but natto, that's one of the things that it's used for, is the degradation of bone, basically. So when people are like having osteoporosis, natto is through the charts.
Plant source K2.
Yeah, K2. That's like the big, the vitamin in there that really does the work. So natto, it's an amazing food, that to say the least. Well, those are good, Michael. So that gives a good baseline for people to kind of plug into. Some of the things like on a budget to peel back. And I'll add to this too. When you're, like when we're on a budget, I think it's better to simplify meals too. I think when people get into, when you go to a recipe online, and you'll be amazed at how quickly what you would call exotic ingredients, that can really throw you off quickly, because you're like, I got to buy kaffir limes, and I got to buy saffron, and I got to buy.
Yeah, no.
And it's like
simple is better.
Yeah, simple, less ingredients are better. So and what that looks like in real time, with my clients, is I tell them, stick to some key basic fats, either like the coconut oil, grass-fed ghee, a little grass-fed butter. Don't cook with olive oil, but that's a good fat. Keep those in there. So have your fats, have quality salt and pepper, some Himalayan salt, so you can season your food well appropriately. And then keep things simple. If you're going to saute, get good with salt and pepper, get good with seasoning your food with like the most simple ingredients first. When Kai and I were living together at the treehouse in Santa Cruz with my buddy Paul, we spent no joke, for 2 years straight, we would make baked chicken, and all we would do is salt and pepper for 2 years, and we just played with the variations of like, what if we do it at 400 or 385 for 42 minutes instead of 40? And
science of food, man.
Yeah, we just played with that, and it was it was like, just groundbreakingly good salt and pepper on chicken, and people will try to get too crazy. So if you're on a budget, less is more. Like less ingredients. Get good with salt and pepper, and eat simply. If you eat rice, do rice with the appropriate amount of salt, a little fat. Have your piece of fish or your beans. Keep things simple. Cook the asparagus in coconut oil, and you'll be amazed at how tasty food is with just salt and pepper. And then you can always move out to like adding a little garlic or a little, some other things that you want to get the flavor profile of. But start simple. Don't make these grandiose meals. Get your baseline. And typically that people have to get into a rhythm. When I would tell people if they're on a budget, you have to approach your food in a disciplined way, right? Like, when people get up and work muscles, right? They get up and they're like, okay, we're doing back and tries today, or if they work out that way, but there's a schedule. And I think especially when you're on a budget, you do have to kind of discipline your eating habits. You're like, okay, Like this week, I'm buying brown rice, and I'm going to have brown rice a few times this week. I'm going to have that thing, and then you can always switch to sweet potatoes the next week or whatever. If if you're doing carbs.
Yeah.
But I think it's just that idea that, regiment your food. Like, think about it. Like, keep it simple, keep it direct. Yeah. Don't overcomplicate the process, and be willing to repeat a little bit, because you're going to have to. On a budget,
you do have to repeat. Yeah, absolutely.
You can't go. Variety is not cheap. Variety is expensive.
It is. And here's another cheap one to buy, right? Huge important to have, especially during this time of season, right? Zucchini.
Yeah, zucchini.
Zucchini's amazing. If you have a spiral slicer, you can make zucchini noodles. I don't care what the kid is. I don't care what they eat or whatever. If you make a zucchini noodle and you take some sauce and you throw that in there, they will not know the difference, right? Especially if you shave. Now, I'm not a proponent of shaving the skin, because there is nutrients in the skin. But for the purpose of getting them to eat it that first time, shave the skin, spiralize it into noodles, and then serve that. The reason, I don't know why, but if you slice zucchini, it tastes like zucchini. If you chop zucchini, it tastes like zucchini. If you noodle zucchini, it tastes like noodles.
Yeah, I think it's the surface area, man, because
it's
so narrow. I think that the flavors just penetrate. It's not a thick thing that it has to penetrate. It's like, there's nowhere for the flavor to go. So I think whatever it's cooking in, it just gets that. They are tasty. They're super delicious.
Yeah, and it's great to use. I wanted to touch on three things that you had said too. One, with the salt. So I'm 100% on board. Simple. The Himalayan pink sea salt is awesome. What I have found from all the cooking that I do, I carry 2 salts, and I sell both salts. The Himalayan pink sea salt, fine grain.
That's what I use too.
Yep. And then the Celtic sea salt. And I now sell the fine grain instead of the chunky, right? Here's why. They're both super cheap. I sell them. I've actually been able to beat Costco on pricing.
Wow. Hey, now. That's not
say, right. Yeah, I'm always about trying to make it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very hard. But what I wanted to do is say this. With the pink Himalayan sea salt, it makes for an amazing table salt.
Yeah.
It's so delicate, right, that it's easy to get lost in the food. And then before you know it, you're adding a lot of it, right, and kind of crossing a threshold at sometimes in order to get that salt flavor. So use it as your accent. Celtic sea salt is more stable in a heat environment, and so you end up with more of that robust flavor with needing a little less of it. And the mineral complex is different between the two slightly.
Yeah.
So both great to have, both cost effective. I mean, you're talking about a couple of bucks for a pound, right?
Yeah,
which will last you a while. I loved that you talked about the coconut oil. I primarily cook with coconut oil, but I do agree that if you're looking at oils to cook with, coconut oil is number one, and then butter would be the second one, right? Because it's also a saturated fat, and will melt and then come back to form. And so it'll protect your food better. And I think it's great and important that you mentioned that if you're going to do that, a grass-fed clarified butter, right, a grass-fed ghee is important, because then you're getting the best option there, right? It's all about the best option.
Yep.
And I loved how you touched on the olive oil.
Yeah.
Olive oil is amazing. You should have it in your diet all the time, right? It does so much for your vitality, for your skin, for just in general to help with elimination and things like that, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But you're absolutely spot on. Never cook with it, right?
Yeah.
If you're a diehard Italian, right?
Yeah, great. Those are the people that
make your pasta.
Yeah.
Right. Make your pasta, and then right before you serve it, dab it in there, right? That low heat that it's already in with, that's fine, because it's not going to break down before you're adjusting it.
Right. And a little note on the I did a solo talk on this actually on Facebook a while back, but I touched on the same point, which is like how you sidestep this and get around this a little bit. So people, when the big key is you don't want olive oil on a hot metal skillet, because when the oil touches the metal, olive oil is super delicate, so it will smoke very quickly. It becomes then carcinogenic, and then it's just you're eating rancid, essentially oil that's just not good for the body. So the thing is, like, if you're doing pasta sauces, and they've done some research on this, if you have a barrier, right? So you've made your pasta sauce, right? Your red sauce, and you can have meat in it or whatever you're going to have, and even while it's warm, that last 5 minutes, you can add that oil in. And the food acts as a membrane basically between that and the skillet, so it doesn't get carcinogenic, right? But you don't want to have high heat. You don't want to be sitting on metal, or add olive oil at the end, right? Do it at the end of the cooking when the thing's off the stove, and you can stir it in. So you can definitely get around it. It's just people are used to cooking with it, and it's not the most. It's just not a good fat to cook with. I mean, across the board, the hard stable fats are the ones you want to lean towards, and the healthiest of the hard stable fats, like what we're talking about: the coconut oil, grass-fed ghee, grass-fed butter. And grass-fed ghee has a higher smoke temperature than butter, right? Because the butter, if you guys that cook, you'll know this, right? You put butter in a warm skillet or semi-hot, it turns brown pretty quickly. That's the dairy solids cooking, and then the flavor changes of the butter. So butter is sort of for like medium heat. Ghee is for like high heat, as is coconut oil. Those are like high smoke point oils. They're very good for cooking, walking and doing all the wok type stuff that you like. So.
Yeah, and I'll share a fun, inexpensive, quick recipe from this book that I'm working on. Right, so I'm creating the second version of Art of Food. Right, and this time it's Art of Food, Art of Food and tonics. Right, and this way you're getting. It's going to be a well robust book. But in the meantime, I'm actually a section of that book is going to be. I might even just pre-release it. And so I'm going to give you a recipe out of that, right? And it's 20-minute or less meals that are healthy, well-rounded for a busy lifestyle. Great. Because that's the other big thing, right? It's cost and then time. Time. Right? And so let's make it where you can eat flavorful, have everybody like it, and be fast and efficient, right? Yeah. And so one of the recipes I had out of there, who doesn't like a stuffed bell pepper, right? Mm-hmm. But traditionally, a stuffed bell pepper has to be grains, right? And some people are like, look, I hear you saying the rice and stuff, and it's cost effective and that's great, but I don't really want to do grains. My body doesn't feel good with it, or maybe I have an allergy to it or whatever, right? So I was messing around one day, and I was making some of the same things, the pastas and all these different things all the time. And I was like, I just want to do something different. And I took a pound of grass-fed beef. Right. And then I took red bell peppers. Now, red bell peppers are a hot topic right now, right? Because of the benefits of the pigment of the red bell pepper and the nutrient value of it. Right. So it's definitely one of those cost effective, especially nowadays, you see it on sale a lot. It's a cost effective vegetable. Definitely get it in your diet. You can julienne it and saute it in coconut oil and salt. Simple. Ends up tasting like butter. Right? Oh yeah. Amazing to do. Simple, fast. But you can also do this other thing with it. And incidentally, where it's great to have that be organic, just a side note, again, can be cost effective because you can do that non-organic and veggie wash it because of the thick membrane that's on it. You can wash that off, and it's not waxed like an apple would be. So you can do that. Beautiful. But so core it out. Right? Get a little pot of water going. This will help speed up the cooking process, right? Get a little pot of water, start getting it to a boil. And you're going to take your red bell pepper, core out the center, pull out the seeds, and set those aside. And while the water is boiling. And then what you're going to do is take why am I drawing a blank? For the noodles, zucchini. Take the zucchini, spiralize it into noodles. Ideally, you have a spiralizer. Nowadays, you can get one for like $10 to $15 at even like Walmart or something like that. So Amazon sells them too. Amazon, you can do it cost effective now. It used to be expensive. It used to be like $40. Now, $10, $15. But spiralize your noodles, and then what you're going to do is fine chop them. Right? Just chop the hell out of it. It ends up being like little rice grains. Yeah. Right? But it's zucchini. So you're going to take that, throw that in your bowl. Add your sauce, kind of mix it in together, right? Then you're going to be in a separate thing cooking your meat, right? And just get it a little bit cooked. All you're doing is adding salt, maybe a little pepper, right? If you want to get a little more creative with it, maybe you went to the store, you didn't buy a container, you just went to Mariano's or Fresh Time or something like that, and you bought a little baggie that you put, $1's worth of garlic salt in, right? Or garlic grain or celery salt or something like that, right? And pinch, done, right? Cost effective, easy to have. You don't need to have it be this big, expensive $20 jar, right?
Yeah.
You know, a little bit because it doesn't take a lot. So maybe you add a little of that in, but just salt is fine, right?
Yeah.
Get that gently browned. You don't need to cook it all the way, but just get it browned, you know. And then you're going to add that into your sauce, excuse me, with your zucchini chopped, right? Mm-hmm. Mix that all together. Now, while that's being mixed, you're going to take your bell pepper, submerge that in that boiling water.
Yeah.
Now, this only takes 30 seconds or so, and basically you're kind of almost braising it, right? You're causing it to do a quick, almost like flash freezing it. You're flash heating it, right?
Yeah.
And it causes it to kind of open up like you do when you go in a hot shower. Your pores are kind of opening up, so it's kind of like, oh, I'm supposed to be relaxed, you know?
Right.
And so then you get it out. Be careful because it's hot, right? Get the water out of it and stuff it. Put it in your little tray that you're going to put. And meanwhile, your oven was heated up to about 350. You can go higher, you know, depending on your time frame. You can go as high as 400, especially if you've pre-cooked all this stuff, right? Fill it in. Make sure you put a little extra sauce on the top. Make sure, ideally, you're spending the extra $1 if you're not making the sauce yourself, which in my first cookbook, you can do a homemade sauce for really cheap and have a ton of it.
But for all intents and purposes, staying with just the
simple ingredient at the store, right? Yeah. Less is more. So if it costs you $1 more, but it doesn't have soybean oil in it,
right,
and it doesn't have a bunch of stuff in it, great, right? So put a little bit on top, put it in the oven, right? You're cooking it for about 20 minutes. You know, longer if you need to. Sometimes it's done as little as 15 minutes, especially when you braise the thing. But now you've got a well-rounded meal that the accent is still the meat, because mind you, for a family of 3 people, right, I'm using one pound of meat.
Correct.
And several zucchinis and 1 jar of sauce, right? This is cost effective. And 5 or 6 bell peppers, right?
Yeah, no, it's great.
Fill it up, boom. Now you're satisfied. You feel good. You're energized. You've got lycopene from tomatoes. You've got olive oil.
You got all the goodies, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Well-rounded, fast, efficient, tasty. You got your salt to garnish on top.
Yeah. Well, this is good, man. This is good. This is a good place to kind of wrap up, because we could be here for a long time, but we'll have you back on and we'll get into some of the other topics. But this is good, man, because this gives a framework just for people to plug into in terms of, you know, basic ideas to approach food, right? You know, the processing pieces we talked about, some ideas around herbs. And so I think just as we wrap this up, I want people to just really think about this, that you know, the context of what we're talking about here is that food and herbs basically play a pivotal role in how we express life, you know, how we navigate this terrain. So the stuff that Michael's talking about is really important in terms of just our baseline health, right? God, you know, don't eat bullshit. Don't get processed food, you know, keep the ingredients simple, you know, start playing with tonic herbs and keep these things in your life, and then see how things go. You know, that's like the big thing, but be patient with yourself, because these processes and this information is a lot here. You know, there's a lot to dive into. So yeah, man, and if I can throw in just two little things, if you start simple, right? Mm-hmm. You know, and so if the Chinese herbalism seems to be like, okay, I'm not quite ready for that, or okay, I'll do astragalus, or okay, I'll do reishi. Reishi's a great one. Right? Yeah. But really consider doing the natto. Go to the nattopowder.com, right? Or go in through my foodhealing.org site and go to natto. But because besides the bone, I just wanted to throw this out there, right? And you can read about it when you go to it. But one of its biggest claim to fame is the vitamin K2 for the bone health, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And it really does work. I can tell you a ton of evidence where I've had people, literally, doctor says 8 weeks healing, they're done in 3. Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and black sesame seeds and all these things play a role. But I wanted to point out, natto increases stamina and energy, right? It helps with the heart and the bone. It really helps with all systems of your body. It helps remove toxicity. It helps with the anti-aging process, right?
Right.
And it's helping with the gut health. It lowers, because of the bacillus strain that's in there, it lowers the ghrelin level, and thus helps your gut-brain connection, which also helps you understand your belly says, hey, we're good. Yeah. And your brain then gets that signal and says, oh, I don't need to finish eating this plate. I'm satisfied. Yeah. Whereas when you have leaky gut and things like that, all of a sudden you're finding yourself, you don't have nutrition assimilation. So even if you're like, man, I'm eating really good, but I still feel like crap.
Yeah.
You might have leaky gut, which is pretty prominent. And as a result, you're not assimilating the nutrients that were in that food. It's just passing through.
Yeah.
Right. So we want to improve the gut health. We want to improve the.
And natto does this.
And natto does this.
Right.
Yeah.
So which is the takeaway is that like natto should be definitely considered when we're talking about this stuff, right? Getting the baseline health, baseline foods into our diet. That's great, man. Dude, thank you for doing this and for your time and just, going through this, and we'll talk more again. So if people want to find you, Michael, where do they find you? And are you on Instagram? Are you on social media? Where can people find you?
Yeah. So I'm daily trying to do Instagram posting, whether it's recipes, whether it's quotes, whether it's product. But that's at foodhealing.org, spelled out .org. _.
Okay.
At the back.
Okay.
That's Instagram. I am on Facebook at foodhealing.org.
Okay.
And then of course you can also find me through Michael Bouvier.
Yeah.
Our website is foodhealing.org.
Okay.
So foodhealing.org. The informational site for natto, which you can link to from foodhealing.org, is nattopowder.com. So NATTO powder.com, all one word. And then you can always call as well at 847-833-4649. I'm always trying to be available unless I'm with a client. I'm always open to sharing insights and information. I freely give out smoothie recipes and things that tips and tricks that I've created to just make life easier.
Yeah. Make the resources available, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, we'll be in touch soon. And if you guys want to find Michael, track him down, ask him questions, get on his stuff. So,
yeah, please do.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
Bye.
Bye.